Hello, and welcome to Alchemy Mindset. I'm your host, Anna Hastie, business mindset coach for women and a sound healer. If you are ready to become the most aligned, magnetic, and confident businesswoman you are worthy and deserving of being, then this show is for you. This is where I share everything from mindset, energy, and spirituality, and how to embody your future self in business and life. Sprinkle that with deeply relaxing sound healings and meditations, and you have the Alchemy Mindset podcast. Hit subscribe so you always get the latest episode. Now let's begin. Hello, dear listener, and welcome back to the Alchemy Mindset podcast. I am your host, Anna Hastie, and I am so pleased that you've hit play on this episode today. And before we go any further into what this episode is about and who my special guest is, I just want to share something with you that I do each and every single time before I hit record on a podcast episode. I always take a moment to tune in. And this looks like taking some deep, calming breaths, feeling my feet flat on the floor, and then asking for whatever divine messaging needs to flow through to do so with ease, and for the highest good of all who are listening, for my guests, myself, and you, my dear listener. Whether it's a solo episode with just me sharing everything that I know with you, or if it's a conversation I'm having between myself and my guest, that the conversation, the energy, the words, the wisdom, the knowledge just flows in. And so that you are getting the very best from this episode. This is always my intention for each episode and this podcast overall. And I have to say, this is exactly what I did prior to hitting record on the interview I held with Kerrie White from Multidimensional Quantum Healing. And while I usually have some questions to guide a conversation or an interview, I have to say that in this interview with Kerrie, everything just flowed with wonderful wisdom and energy. And it was just a pure channel of consciousness that came through Kerrie. Now, you may have heard me talking about Kerrie over time as my go-to healer. She's based in Perth and offers in-person and online multidimensional quantum healings, as well as really powerful transformational workshops and teachings. And I have to say, I've experienced many of Kerrie's healings, as well as attended her quantum healing course. Kerrie Jane White created multidimensional quantum healing while on a journey of self-discovery. From a very young age, Kerrie has always been very spiritually allied with a deep knowing of how everything is connected. Before Kerrie created her healing business, Kerrie studied a diploma in exercise and nutrition sciences, which later on went to a Bachelor and Master of Science degrees. Kerrie is a master at her craft and delves deep into any subject that sparks her interest. Not taking the written word as fixed, but analyzing and creating a better, more ingenious way of understanding and applying the knowledge practically in everyday life. She holds a strong passion to serve and guide others by empowering them to understand themselves and their innate abilities. With a strong connection to her inner guidance, backed by research and practical understanding, Kerrie has developed heart-centered, easy to understand, yet powerful and highly efficient processes to change reality at a quantum level. Techniques and levels of awareness that allow any individual to access their own wisdom and unlimited capabilities to discover how truly blessed and magnificent each and every single one of us are. I asked Kerrie to come onto the show to not only share her story, but also to share what healing is in the quantum field and why this can benefit you right now. She sheds light on how to gain more self-awareness to our physical, emotional, and energetic well-being, why we need to heal ourselves first in order for our children and future generations to create a lasting impact on this planet, and the importance of teaching our children to process their emotions and trauma. She also talks about how she shares her healing abilities with her children. I know you're going to love this conversation I have with Kerrie, and I'm so pleased that you hit play today. I also want to add that Kerrie has offered you, dear listeners, a special discount of $20 off your first one-to-one session with her, and the code and links to book in are in the show notes below. Without further ado, I introduce to you Kerrie White from Multidimensional Quantum Healing. Now let's begin. Hello, hello. Welcome, Kerrie.
Hi, Anna.
Welcome, welcome. I am so pleased to have you here on our chat today.
Happy to join you, Anna, on this.
Amazing. And as I was saying earlier, I said it's so much fun because this time, I'm on the other end of the Zoom link. Usually when Kerrie and I connect and we're doing a healing, or I'm receiving a healing from Kerrie, Kerrie's leading the way. I've come to her with what I need and I just let her do all the magic. And then today it's kind of roles reversed almost.
It's nice. So I like it. And I love the way you started the session. Feels so good.
Yeah, thank you. So welcome. I would love to just start straight away. For those who don't know who Kerrie is someone who I go to see all the time whenever I need energy healing, whenever I need some spiritual zhuzhing, something clearing, something healed, something that I just feel within myself is not in a sense where I would need to go see a doctor or anybody else, but I just need something else within me. I go to see Kerrie and she does all this amazing magical healing that just is so powerful. I've recommended friends and clients. I send Francois to Kerrie. We've done some amazing healings over the time, haven't we? Like healings around Broome for family. So much comes out within these sessions, right? But I'd love you to just take us back to how this all started. Where were you when you went, oh my goodness, this is what I'm here to do. This is my journey, my path. Where did it all begin?
It's interesting because I was actually discussing this the other day with someone. And I actually think it was around 2012. Literally that year, it was like, I need to help people. And it was like, I couldn't do the job I was doing. It was just drowning me. And I actually even went into life coaching because I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do, but I knew I needed to help someone or some people. And my background is in sports science as well, like how the body works. I worked in public health in the UK. So again, I've always been in the field of helping other people. And then I kind of lost a little bit of that when I did all my traveling and started to do all these normal jobs that weren't really serving the communities. And then it was like that year, something was like, give me a big slap and was like, you need to get back into helping others. And I was like, well, how do I even do that now? And so that's why I ended up did a little workshop I did a course on life coaching, but it was the connections I made in that because obviously I never ended up as a life coach. But it was the people that I met on that workshop that I'm still even in contact with today that I'm like, wow, no wonder I had to do that workshop. It was the people. And it was from there that I understand that became a foundation for when everything went rocky, when I then ended up getting pregnant with twins and then ended up in a marriage that didn't end up working out very well. But it was always linking me back to where I should be. And it was like I got lost along the way. And actually, I do remember when I did my life coaching and we were doing all these processes and things. And there was all these people with all these different issues. And I was like in such a good place at the time that I was like, I can't relate with depression. Like I've been traveling the world. I've done all this. I can't relate with people who are sick. I never get sick. I remember going, how am I going to help anyone if I've never been unwell? And then, be careful what you wish for. The universe then sent me this spiral then that was like this relationship that would just drown me, that I never felt so alone in, that allowed me to really disconnect from myself, which is a crazy kind of concept of, it was like almost like my soul had to go through this disconnection of self through that relationship and through lack of sleep and then having these two babies that I had to look after and try and juggle all that with zero family here, obviously from the UK. And my partner from over here, all his family were over east. There was just nobody. So it was kind of like that became like the foundation of almost mess. I suppose it is the story of the wounded healer, but it's like, without the foundation of all the mess, we can't know how to unwind it and resolve it. So it's like a journey my soul had to go on to end up to where I am today and be as good as what I am today at what I do. So I'm grateful for all the chaos and all the stress and all the things that happened over those years.
Yeah, wow. And it's that thing that you said there originally, that you had that feeling or that calling or that nudge or that message come through that you were to help people, but you didn't know how it was going to happen, but you knew that was something that you would have to follow through. And then even just the stepping stone of that life coaching course connected you to the people that led you to where you are today. So with some of those people that sparked your interest to do further studies into doing what you do now?
It's interesting. Those people actually were the ones that allowed me to get into the work I do now by trusting me. Because it was almost like later on, like once I started playing around with this work and doing a lot of work on myself, and then people started to notice, wow, Kerrie, actually, you look better. Your life seems to be going in a good place now. And then these people that I'd met through different workshops, like the life coaching one being one of them, they would literally go, can you do it on me? These were the people that, like, if they hadn't have asked me, like some of these people, I would never have ended up where I was because I would have just kept it on myself.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like these people kind of going, can you just test it out on me? Or I'd love to do you to experience what you do. And at the time I was like, no, I don't do this on anyone else. I don't even really know what I'm doing. Like, it was kind of like, and that trust they had on me, with what I could do, even though I didn't really know what I was doing at the time, was kind of like white magic. I was at a line with these people, and they were actually quite sensitive to energy as well. So stuff that I did, they could give me feedback on it, and they really loved it. And then they shared it with other people they knew. And that's how kind of my business kind of expanded through word of mouth. I even have like a neighbor down the road who's also got twins, who then ended up being one of those women as well, who's like, can you do it on me? And I'm like, okay. Like, it was literally like, I remember at the beginning feeling so like out of my depths with, I don't really know what I'm doing. So I don't know whether I should be doing it on anyone else. But I did know that it felt absolutely amazing when I did it on myself. And I then started to obviously see through these people that they felt amazing as well. And then they had massive shifts in their own life. And it's not just physical as well. Like, it's almost like life issues would change, career issues would change, court cases would change. Like, it's almost like,
wow,
the amount of things that you can change within your reality through this kind of modality, which I don't even know if it is. Is it a modality, or is it just this tapping into the quantum field? And again, we're talking about the quantum field. What even is it? It's that consciousness of creation, like, that is allowed to run through me. So although I kind of do sometimes label it as a modality because people want to know, is it a certain thing?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's beyond that in a way, because it's like every session is so different and so unique, as you would know yourself. It's almost like I allow that trust in the divine to flow through me, and the trust then comes through them with whatever the divine of that individual is and whatever they're requiring. So yeah, it's...
So you yourself found that you had this ability, or I wouldn't say ability, because this is something I've recently been sharing with some of my clients in a spiritual development course that I'd been running, is that everybody's connected. Like, nobody's no more gifted than the others. It just depends on, I guess, what exposure we've had to it, or encouragement, or practice, or learning. Like you said, being able to trust and connect and call in that divine consciousness or healing. So in yourself, you've basically, for some people, they go out and do a Reiki course or a pranic healing course or anything else, but you yourself were like more self-taught in a way?
I'd say a mixture, because I had to do some workshops, some courses, get guidance from other people, but I'm very self-led. And I think because I had not my outcome that I was looking for was, I want to be healthy and I want to be the best mom for my twins. That was my main goal. And it was all like, I've got to get myself well. So I didn't have anything like, I didn't want to learn anything to create a career. So it was like, the way I went into it allowed me then to be quite, I didn't see everything, I have to do it this way. So it was like, I didn't have that set motion and I have to do something a certain way. And almost like if someone did say it has to be done this way, I'm very much one of them people who are like, but why? But what happens if it feels like it should be this way? Or what happens if it feels like it should flow this way? And what about this? And I did come in through contact through, I won't mention what the workshop was, but I remember one of the people who taught it. And I remember saying, we did the workshop that day and I went home to do some of the work, and they were like, oh, maybe just work on your children tonight. And I was like, okay. And I remember this, and still remember it quite now, this cord that was coming from myself to my daughter. And in the cord, there was like this black lump, and I was removing this black, again, just allowing the flow and whatever I was seeing. And I was removing this lump that was in the cord between me and my very young daughter at the time. And then the next morning when I went into the second day of this workshop, I was like, this is what I seen. She totally brushed me off.
Oh,
and was like,
really?
that's interesting, she said, and didn't give me anything. And I was like, oh, I told you this because I wanted you to explain it. I wanted you to allow me to, what is this? Right. And then because I had all these questions, it was like, then I was like, well, I'm going to have to figure it out. If they're not willing to help me, then I'll just figure it out myself. Like this was kind of the mindset that I went in. And luckily I did have some spiritual friends that I could bounce stuff off as well. And it's like, this has come up and what about this? And again, I feel like they were learning as I was exploring. And I feel like the whole process of what I do is still I'm still learning through the process. And it's like I'm still expanding through everything that I do and every single person that I work on. And I think like that's why it's so interesting, because there's never two sessions that are the same. And we never know really where it's going to go. And again, that's that trust in where is this going to unfold? And you can have like when we start the sessions, it's kind of like, well, what do we want to focus on today? And we can bring forward that element of like, well, this is I'm blocked in this, or there's this little bit of an issue here. And then from that kind of foundation of, right, okay, well, this is the foundation of the issue we can feel in the physical. Where is it everywhere else? And it's the multifaceted kind of energy of like which direction, which layer, which area. And then when we go into it, it can go into everywhere. And that my work does kind of go into entities, DNA through the ancestors, through past lives, current life trauma. But all of it really, it all exists in the same quantum field. And we can label it all these different things to help us understand it in the physical. But again, it's almost like once you open up your consciousness, you can start accessing it all at once. And that's why it allows for like in the sessions for there to be so much of a shift, because we can go through so many layers of what is stuck all at once. And then most of the time just completely release it all in just that 1 hour. Because I sometimes am amazed in like what can happen in a 1 hour session.
I know, right?
It's like, how did all that, 'cause a lot of people are like, was that a time warp or something? Like, how did all that just occur in 1 hour? And then, yeah, it is amazing what can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you've said is really important there is that I feel quite often that particularly as adults, when we go to learn something, we want to learn exactly how to do it step by step, process by process, because in some ways it's a way maybe we've been taught to learn like that. This is how you learn something. These are the steps, follow it, and you'll get this outcome. And I know through my own practice within my bowls, like I learned foundations of this is how you play them. This is what might be, this, that, and whatever with what you do. But I know that it's only evolved over time through my own exploration and playing. Just like you said, your own abilities or the way you've accessed what are we going to call this? Well, the way you've accessed, the realm.
I suppose it's like the infiniteness of who we are, isn't it?
Yeah. So the way you've accessed that has been through your own exploration and practice and learning and exploring. And I feel like that's a really important thing for all of us in no matter what we do this day and age, because I think we get so bogged down with, am I doing it right or wrong? Is this a pass? Is this a fail? Is this, the right steps? Of course, like foundational things are always great to help us open up and have that awareness. And I know you teach what you do through, is it 3 levels? You've got a 3-level or is it 2-level course?
And it's interesting because even just in the last month, I'm almost getting this drive to go like almost break even down the 3 levels. So I might still have the 3 levels there, but I might even feel like I'm going to do like these 1-2 hour, well, it probably would be 2 hour, maybe 3 hour workshops in which a section of that is explored and it becomes like a learning and a healing within a contained couple of hours.
Yeah.
Because as you know, like there's a lot of people that struggle to do the full amount of learning. And it's almost like compounded so much information into that full day that a lot of people, they're literally head blown by the end of it. And the reason I did do that was because I wanted to kind of develop something like as a single mom who, I didn't have much money back then as well. It's like as a single mom, I wanted it to be available to as many people as possible. And I found within myself, it was like I had to pick something from here and there and a little bit of bob from all different places. And it was like, gosh, what would have been so good if I could have just found a workshop that just had everything, like the foundation of everything I needed all at once. And that's kind of why I created what I did. when I was creating that, all the expansion of the level 2 and the level 3 came in as I was creating the number 1. And I was literally like, this is too much. Like, oh my goodness. And it was because I opened myself up into creating that it was almost like why 2 and 3 actually, kind of came
about.
Like I kind of like shifted all that to the side and was like, that's just going to have to go over there for now because people are ready for that. I don't even know how I'm ready to even teach that. Like, it was kind of like so much as kind of came through. But yeah, the foundation is kind of like, it's that access to self. It's that access into our energy centers through the chakras, access through our auric field, like where things get trapped within us. And then it goes beyond that then through into the what is in us or on us that should not be there, like the entities. Then it goes through into what is the trauma? Is it current life or past life? And sometimes it can be quite confusing because obviously all of it is past. So there can even be sometimes when I'm even doing a session on people, sometimes I'm like, is this current life or past life? Sometimes it's really obvious when it's past, it just feels like it's so far away and you kind of pull the energy towards you. But sometimes if the lifetime where the trauma has occurred is only so quite close, then sometimes you have to even ask the person, did this happen in this life? And they'll sometimes like, no, I don't even know anything about that, but I could feel it. And you're like, oh yeah, it must be a very close lifetime. And we even go into the ancestral stuff. And this is why it's so huge, the 1-day workshop, because I don't think there is another workshop out there that can actually, because the flow of the day is quite good as well, isn't it?
It is.
It's like you actually don't realize that you're actually learning and absorbing all that information and actually practicing it. And there's so much expansion through the day and there's so many aha moments. And I think it is because like I just let everyone, it's almost like a day of remembering everything that's around us. It's like we've been wearing these blinkers and we're only been seeing a certain thing. And it's like the day almost allows for people to be like, oh my goodness, I can feel that on me. And a lot of people sometimes have people who come in like, I've been healing for like 20 years and I think I'm good. And they'll do the workshop and be like, oh my goodness, I've got to go. And I'm like, and it's not to overwhelm people and that there's a lot to go, but it's just to bring that awareness in. Like, but once you're aware, you can shift it and you can remove whatever's not supposed to be there. And the whole journey of it is to get back to the authentic soul self and the authentic soul expression. And that's kind of where my work comes around really. Because it's kind of like everything that's in a way of the authentic self. And again, that's through childhood experiences, the way our parents might have treated us. And again, sometimes they had their best interests at heart, but it's the way the younger self interpreted that. And the way schooling, the way society is, the way different relationships have kind of imprinted on us. And we kind of create this not self version of ourselves. And we don't even realize that we're a not self. And this personality or persona that we are is not real. And then when we're living from that vibration, that's when our lives start to go a bit haywire and we can't manifest what we want to manifest. We can't bring in the partner we want. We can't bring in the life we want because we're actually not almost humming at the vibration of who we are, the frequency of who we should be, with this kind of distorted aspect of ourself and our soul. So my work is to allow us to get back to who we are.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest things that is coming forward so much more now in terms of the time that we're in, the planet, the collective, is that the realization that things that aren't serving us anymore is to be released, to let go of, because we're here to live, as you said, that authentic self. Live on what our purpose is in this lifetime, to fulfill the agreement, the contract that we had when we incarnated into this lifetime. And so one thing that I've recently been thinking about as well, and I'd love your thoughts on this, is that we've been for so long told, to take care of our health, like our physical health, like drink plenty of water, eat good foods, exercise, things like that. And then now there's been the big encouragement around mental health. Like it's okay to talk to people if you don't feel well, or, seek counseling if you're feeling quite depressed or anxious, or, the talk around stress and its impact on the body. But I find that it's now, what about the energy side of us? Because that's what we're encompassed of. Like people always talk about in the health and well-being realm, like, maybe what we do is like there's the mind, body, spirit connection. But I feel like for those who are not in, like, let's say the industry that we are in, that talk of spirit, it's not as like common as what it would be to perhaps, when you see those adverts on TV that say, smoking is bad for you, or alcohol for your baby isn't good, or, make sure you're getting plenty of exercise and take care of your mental health. Like, I'm waiting for the adverts on TV or something to come through that says, and what about your spiritual health? Have you taken care of that today? So I'm just curious to know what your thoughts are in and around that, in terms of people becoming more aware of their spiritual, let's say, health or energy, and what you're seeing come through.
And it is interesting because you can feel the separation in it as well. It's like, look after the body, as in the body is something separate from yourself. Again, it kind of is, but isn't. And then the mind, again, is something in a separate box. And then the spirituality, again, in a separate box. And it's almost like they all need to be balanced out and seen as equal. Feeling to the spiritual side, it is more of that connection to the self. So this is where it comes in. So people they get so spiritual as if it's like something else other than themselves. And it's almost like the spiritual side is, how do I connect to who I am? How do I listen to who I am? How do I listen to my intuition? Do I listen to my intuition? Do I brush my ideas off? Do I brush my intuition off? Do I listen to someone else other than myself? And again, this can even come back to your health as well, because someone's going to be giving you advice on your health. What works for one person doesn't work for another. Again, this is where your intuition comes in. Again, you need your spiritual connection to be able to know what's good for your physical well-being. The same with the mental health. Someone might love a certain type of music, a certain way to do things. That music may be horrible for someone else. Again, that's where your intuition comes in. What is authentically right for my vibration, my soul? And this is the uniqueness that needs to come through as well. Like, we are all our own, almost our own chord of expression, our own kind of frequency. It's almost like we're our own song. And it's kind of like we have to do things in alignment with who we are as a soul. Again, that's a lot of people be like, oh, well, when I'm a vegan, I'm stronger and I'm healthier. Someone was like, well, when I was a vegan, I felt weak and my body didn't like it. And we get that where, in so many different things. And this is where we have to realize that the individual soul essence comes through the body's expression. This is why it all connects through as well. And this is why there's not always one treatment that works for everyone. And there's not always one food that's going to heal everyone. And this is where the connection to self is so powerful, because you can only really find the pathway to your own healing through your own self, through your own internal connection. And this is, again, that spiritual kind of aspect into it. And again, it's not something you can box. It's something that has to overlay through everything else. So like a spiritual practice would literally just be just sitting with yourself and being like, how am I actually feeling right now? Like, just stopping from the outside world and being like, how do I feel? Like, is my heart beating? Do I feel like I need to move? Why do I feel like I need to move? Why can't I just relax in just sitting with myself right now? And it's almost like that analyzing of where am I at? It is almost that spiritual connection. And it's almost becomes a spiritual cleansing in itself, because then you get that check-in. How am I feeling? What am I holding on to? And again, when we feel into what am I holding on to, this is when we can then go into that kind of that energetic hold on of the emotional and mental energies that hold in the auric field, and then they hold in the physical body as well. So the physical body is usually a manifestation of what has not been processed in the spiritual realms. So by the time we're already having issues with our knees and our organs, it's already an accumulation of what's happened in our mental and emotional kind of blockages. So by the time we're working on the physical body, we've already neglected the spiritual aspect of ourselves to end up with any health issues. So it's kind of like, that's why it's always connecting back to who we are. And if something has manifested in the physical, it doesn't mean that it's stuck there forever. Again, it's almost like we have to unwind. Where has this came from? How have I created this? How have I created a disconnection within I have a mental pathway, my emotional pathway, in my connection to myself in this reality that has then caused a disconnect within my physical body, which is a manifestation of all that I am in this physical realm. And then again with the mental, as soon as the mental aspects is blocked, and again with the mental, it can actually have outside messing energies that interfere a lot. And it can happen a lot with the physical, but with the mental, this is where we can get outside energies that can interfere with the mind. When we talk about entities and things like that. I mean, a lot of people have done the worstest things in this world. They usually say, oh, I just black out. And then all of a sudden You know, like when you think of serial killers and stuff, a lot of them talk about something just takes over me at that time. And that word, they're literally telling you something took over me at that time. But again, they have to get to a weak point within their own consciousness, within their own self-connection. And you have to have a very weak self-connection to allow an entity to take over your body. But they would have had this trauma. They would have had something that's happened to them in their life that's disconnected their soul essence from their body and then allows something else to come in. And this is why the world's a little bit of a mess at the moment, because we have so many people who don't want to connect to who they are. And then it leaves them almost then as an open vessel then for lower consciousness to enter into the field. Because if you don't want to be alive and you don't want to be in your body, something else will jump in. And this is where it's that sovereignty of the self and taking back the power of your own self, realizing that, yeah, you might have thought horrible things about yourself and you might have thought horrible things about the world, but you can change that. And it's just that awareness of like, gosh, yeah, I have been thinking that way. I need to think a different way now, because otherwise I'm going to create those thoughts and my life's just going to keep going downhill. And then it will start manifesting in my body. And then all of a sudden I'll be sick in some way. So yeah, and in myself, I became quite sick as well. This is where I noticed this connection when I was in my relationship and when I had my children and I was sleep deprived. And my mental energy started to go down. I got so many entities in and around me. I remember sometimes I'd say certain things. I'm like, oh, God, why did I say that? And it was almost like I was hanging around with these negative energies and they were making me more and more negative. And it wasn't until I realized and I had to snap out of it. And my children were a good part of that because they were like, Mom, there's black spirits. Well, they didn't say it was black spirits. They were like, Mom, there's a black thing there. You know, when they started to talk, when they were about, this is when they were like 2 years old, 3 years old. I'm like, Mom, there's something, you know, and they point and you're like, ooh. And this is where I was petrified at the time, petrified a bit. But I met actually a good friend who you know, I'm still really good friends with now, who helped me through that because I was so scared. And again, through horror movies, you know, and you watch things like Poltergeist and stuff like that, that imprint of fear then actually blocks you from being able to take your power back into knowing that you may be a physical being, but you've got with this spiritual body. So you are way more powerful than anything that is just in the spiritual realm. And fear, it's like the kryptonite. It makes us weak. So when we are in fear, it actually becomes almost impossible to heal. It becomes impossible to even remove any negative entities around you when you are in fear. That's why I kind of like the analogy of it being kryptonite, because you become weak when really we are superheroes really within these bodies and we are capable of so much. And I reckon like as more and more of us expand into these abilities, these innate abilities that have not even really been fully awakened, well, some of them have, because when we think of like people who levitate and telepathy, a lot of us are already connected through this. Like even with phones, you think, oh, I've just thought of this person. You can check your phone and they text you. You know what I mean? Like we're already quite, you know, a lot of these gifts are already part of us, and technology is starting to kind of really, it just shows us what we can do. And we're kind of going around two pathways, really. There's a technological advancement that can take us away from our spiritual gifts, or we can use technology to our advance it. And then still, like we do here, where we can literally do healing sessions by Zoom. And we can use that to allow us to connect with more people. But if we allow technology to take away telepathy, you know, our ability to create, like even when you think of AI now, it can create books, it can create images, but what happens to the individual ones to art? So there's this balance now, this kind of pathway where we're going on, where it's like, do we keep going? There's lots that it can do to help us and enhance us. But we can't lose our innate creativity because that is who we are. Yeah, I don't know why we ended up going that realm there, but yeah.
I think it's a great. I've just been sitting here listening going, wow, Kerrie, I'm just like absorbing everything that you're saying. I know this is all going to be so helpful to anybody who's listening to this right now, because it just, for me personally, it all makes sense. Like it's just everything that you say, I'm like, it makes sense. It's where, I guess it makes sense for me because I know for a fact, like years ago, it was that moment when I'm like, I did like an initial spiritual development course, whatever it was called, Spiritual Pioneers or something. And the people that I was working with, the beautiful girls at a day spa, that was my key moment when it just opened me up to realizing that there is more out there than what I've been led to believe. And it answered all those questions, right? And it's hearing what you're saying now. I know it's going to help someone within that moment going, you know what, this makes sense. I've always thought, or that confirms something within me that I haven't been able to articulate, but I know. And it's like what you said, coming back to the connection of the soul and how important that is for opening up our intuition and our own wisdom, which is there. And I can relate to that in a way. So here's a little example of the healing that you and I have done together, or you've helped me with, was a few years ago, we were in a different house and it was in Broome, and I had a session with you and I said, I just don't feel comfortable in any room within this house. Like, I just don't feel like I can be comfortable in this house. I know this house isn't for us forever. It's what I call the temporary house. It was a transition house between one location to moving into the house that we're in now. But I just said, I just don't feel comfortable. And when we went in, you said, well, there's a spirit, someone who hasn't passed over, and she's very much attached to the land, to country, and she's not happy with you being there. And I was like, well, that makes sense now, because for a while, I'm like, I'm not wrong within this. I know there's something not right. Like, I feel like I don't feel comfortable, and I've never not felt comfortable. So it's that example of tuning in and going, like you said, putting your hands on your heart, going, how am I feeling right now? What is happening within me? What do I truly believe is right, as opposed to listening and to all the external noise out there? And for me, it was like, I just don't feel comfortable in this house. Francois was like, yeah, I feel fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with this house. And I know he has his own spiritual connection to self, but I was like, no, there's something wrong. And then working on that session with you is, like you said, you never know where it goes. It just opened up this whole entire healing, not only for this lady, but for the land and for my neighbors and the whole area of Broome. And then I think it cycled right across the Kimberley and into the Northern Territory and around. And I know we've done some like epic healing around this country just from one moment where I've said, I don't feel right. So where is this going? But I also remember in that session, like you said, this lady's not happy with you. And she literally got this club and she's waving it at you. And I said, well, just give me a moment. I'd like to speak to her too. And so I spoke to her out loud, but also through you. And you said, wow, she's listening, and I said, look, I'm sorry that you're in a time where you probably don't understand everything that's going on, but I'm a good person and I promise to take care of country and the land that I'm on. And I'm sorry that you're feeling like this. And you're like, wow, that just opened up everything for her. But yeah, going back to that moment, it's like, I don't feel right within myself. So something's not right. This isn't normal for me. What is it? And having you to help me identify that cleared it, because after that I was fine in that house. I was fine. Like, it felt much better. And then in a few months we found the house that I'm now living in now, which is amazing. But yeah, for me, it's always been that pure reminder of when you don't feel right, there's a reason why.
Yeah. And I think that's why, like, with the sessions that it's almost like I'm just bringing awareness to it's like I put myself in your energy field, and then I feel what's going on for you. And that's why I can literally start going, well, can you feel that? And I feel like rather than just doing it all for you, even though I do obviously in the process, a lot of the time I'm feeling into what does this person actually need to learn and expand from this experience of healing. And that's why I feel like through the sessions that I do on people, I allow them to learn and expand through the process, because the more that person learns, and then you know what I mean, like, your awareness now of that means that you can tap into that now at any time, at any house, at any land. Whenever you have that feeling, you're like, oh, I've had this feeling before. Now I know what it's related to. So I feel like that is a kind of part of my work, that I am not here just to shift everything for everyone individually, or make as many people as possible wake up to their own unique gifts, to, like I said, you just didn't know until it was out to you. And again, there's so many people like that, like, I just don't feel right, but I don't know. And this is kind of what my work and my teachings is all about, really, to kind of bring back into knowing why, because I was exactly in that place. What is wrong with me? Why am I sick? Why is my life like this? Why is everything going? Where's my money? And all these different issues. It was like, I had to then find the pathway of where is this coming from. And again, we can have it in spirit. We can have it, in emotional energy, mental energy, through different dimensions of our being, through different incomes, there's so many sessions even this week that I've done where I've literally gone, oh, it's actually ancestral. It's not even your stuff. and we've been genetic stuff because they're literally like, I have no idea. And I've done so much work on myself. I just can't find it. And then we go through into looking and it's like, oh yeah, because it goes through your mom or it goes through your dad. And actually it's like 6 generations back and it's this person. And actually the one we did yesterday, it was funny because it was like, it's this person actually, and that person's you. So it's a past life healing now as well. And it was really true. Yeah. So it's almost like a lot of us in the same bloodline as well, because we've been the one that distorted something in that bloodline. So you might have that blame of like, somebody in my ancestors has done something. And then you go through, you're like, oh, it's me. But then you come back around, and that's why your soul would have chose back to come back around into the same bloodline to fix what you kind of caused distortion to. And I do feel like this is kind of the era of time we're in right now, where we're kind of like, we're awakening so much into what we have caused, the mess we've caused. And again, a lot of us, we've killed people in different life. And some people in this lifetime, they've had themselves. And it's like we've done lots of caused almost a distortion of our frequency. And it's like this lifetime, we're bringing in that awareness to know, what have I done and how can I balance that? Because each of us have gone through the fabric of this consciousness. And we've been like almost at a whim to all the different energies that have taken us different ways. Like they're losing loved ones in the past, and it's like being hurt ourselves in the past, being abused. All these different things that have occurred to us that have caused like this ripple distortion that we've expressed and then caused distortion. And then we're now at the place of like, no, I'm going to keep reenacting this distortional frequency. I'm here now to recognize it and harmonize it. And there's so many of us now. This is where they go, like, this is why I think it's such a shift and why we're all conscious right now. This is because this is into the cleaning up. Yeah. Yeah. Because like all of us that blame the way society is right now, we the generations that have, and it's like that awakening to be like, all right, I'm part of this. It's not from me. And in me healing myself and my lineage, laying on my past lives and the way in the pipes, we can harmonize it to create a future together. And that's where people keep calling in, oh, New Earth. But New Earth is only when you've harmonized your own kind of distortions.
Exactly. It's not going to like land itself. It's not like it's going to descend from outer space and just blanket itself over what is already here, right? It has to come from within. The healing has to start within the individual. And it's exactly like what I always say, and you've said it as well. It's like that ripple out effect. I know that I've healed past life and ancestral life situations and events, and knowing that like past life, it trickles out through all those lives that extended from that past life. And then that ripples out and changes. It always blows my mind when I think about this, but it just ripples out, right? Is all I can say. It just ripples out.
And all the people, because it's almost like sometimes we go into past lives and it's like, oh, there's these people that are either your family or your loved ones with you. And again, as you heal the energy of yourself and then you heal who is with you. In the healings that we do, we even give compassion and love to anyone who's even hurt us, killed our family. Because again, we recognize them as part of the whole. And if we don't have compassion and empathy for those people who are fully distorted, then it's almost give permission for that distortion to still be in our communities. So it's like we have to hold space for all that's there, because then we have to recognize that, I am actually all the good people and all the bad people. Because I have consciousness. And this is when we go into that massive oneness energy. And I am actually all this oneness that is consciousness. And some of that consciousness has become separated from what it truly is. And it's like we're reconnecting all that separation back into the oneness. And some of that separation is quite, it's quite yucky. A lot of us don't even want to look at it or go there. But sometimes it's almost like cleaning under the rug. Sometimes it's full of moldy, horrible stuff. But if we don't clean it out, that beautiful pattern on that rug's going to eventually start to rot. And it's like just cleaning out the mess so it can blossom.
Oh, 100%. And I think that's the thing. Like I know in a recent healing that I had with you, like I said to Kerrie, I know this has happened. I don't want to know about it because that's just how I need to deal. But I need to heal it because I know it's playing on me right now. And it got triggered through something that I was reading, but I knew it was something that had happened within past lifetimes. But it was now this energy was playing through and how I was feeling now, knowing that we just had to go back and do some healing for it. And it's that thing, like nobody wants to have to deal with the horrible, ugly shit. Nobody does. We just want to live nice, rosy, happy lives, right? But it's through the healing of the ugly shit, the moldy carpet, that we get to have the rosy, golden life.
Ignorance isn't bliss. It's like ignorance just leads to separation, loneliness, and then like that separation from the self. And this is where connection comes in, because when you are connected, you have to connect to all of you, all the shit too. But it's by connecting to that brings in the awareness to it. And then once something is seen, it can be brought to awareness and light and empathy, compassion, and then it just shifts. And that's how we shift our reality. It's literally from the inside out, every single one of us.
That's incredible. Gosh, even the words you're speaking, I know this just having a massive healing effect to those listening to it right now. Kerrie, I'd love you to share, how has your journey being a healer and in the work that you do, how's it blended with being a mother of twin children? And how have you seen the work that you do either affect or benefit them as well?
Yeah, beautiful. And I would say as well, they were one of the massive shifts. It was like, as I brought them into the world, that connection to spirit opened me up as a mother. And I feel like a lot of moms will be aware of this as well, of how then sensitive they became, how then more aware they became of maybe even their partner or of their environment, of their own body. And then it was this overwhelm, because it's almost like by allowing the spirit to come through your body and then come out into the physical world, you are actually allowing more of a connection to all the things you've been ignoring. So I feel like giving birth literally gives birth to more connection to the self. And sometimes we don't like what we feel. We don't like what we see. And then expanding onto that as my children grew up, like I've literally the amount of healings I had to do on them. Like they've had times in the middle of the night that I remember one time my daughter came to my room. She's, Mom, my legs, my legs, my legs. Like she was just in agony. There's nothing, like she literally just woke up. She hasn't hurt her leg. She hasn't done anything. And then when I fell into it, the most terrible lifetime of this horrible thing, like almost like a torture thing being done to her legs. And to wake up to that in the night and just laying her, cuddling her. And then I'm like, tune into what it is. And I'm like, and then you've got that mother who's, you've got your daughter that you absolutely adore. And then to see that this has happened to her. And it's like that really, I remember back then being like, it's not happening right now, but it's come to the surface. I can help her with this. And the amount of stuff I've had, like when you think of growing pain, what is growing pains? Is it the child is so sensitive that the past life trauma is surfacing? So that's happened a lot with my children. So every time they complain about growing pains and I tune into it, guaranteed it's a past life. So that has really allowed me to kind of like understand that. Because I remember as a kid, I was like, Mom, it hurts when I press here. Why? And she's like, well, just don't press there. And I was
but it hurts.
But as I haven't banged it or haven't done anything to it and it hurts. And she was just, she just didn't have the understanding of like, I was actually tapping into something like in my mind, I'm like, but it hurts, but I haven't done anything. So it shouldn't hurt, but it does. And that was me. Then I was tapping into past life on myself. But then when you don't have the parents that can give you the understanding of what's going on. And I feel that's what my children now have, the understand what's going on for themselves. Actually, even I can tell you a story because it literally just happened last night. So the children came back because obviously I'm separated from their father now. So they came back after 5 days away and they're always quite, I feel like I'm their emotional stability. So I was like asking them how their weekend was. And then my daughter, and she's like, my snake, she's got a pet snake. She loves all animals, but she was like, my snake bit me. And then all of a sudden I connected to it and I connected to her emotion around that. And I was like, Lily, I was like, you just tended to be brave, didn't you? And she was like, yeah, you feel all her face started to go into tears then. And she was like, well, I love the snake. And I was like, I know you do, but feel the sadness. You feel the shock. So, like, because snakes, obviously, they're fast when they bite. And she didn't expect it. So I could feel all that energy inside of her. And then she was like, I was like, breathe it out, breathe it out. She was doing these nice, big, deep breaths. And she could feel it all. And I could feel all these emotions starting to come out of her because she was at her dad's house at the time when it happened. And I think she just kind of didn't, because she loved the snake. It's not like she wants to say, oh, bit me, get rid of it. She still wanted to keep the snake. So she had all these conflicted emotional energies that she just didn't know how to process as an 8-year-old. So it was like, I thought, because my awareness is always quite open, and because I had that question, like, how's your time been away? And then they start to share that. And as they share it, it's literally like all the emotions of those events that they've not been able to process in the time when they've been with their dad. They then process them with me just by, again, I just open up that space for them. How's your weekend been? And again, it's, it's literally when someone sometimes asks you, how are you? And you go, okay. But then you start crying because you're not okay. Yeah. And again, open that up your children as well. And like actually wanting to hear them and being present with them as you ask them, how's your time been away from me? And then it allows them then to have that gateway of opening that they can feel. And I was even saying to it, I said to her, I was like, do you want me to help you? She's like, no, Mom, I'm breathing it out myself. And she was. And that's that independent 8-year-old now that I've got. Like, that literally, it's like, I'll do it myself now, Mom. I'm like, okay, you're a great girl now. You just process all that trauma yourself. But again, it's like, because they've got the tools now, they've grown up with it. It's quite normal. And sometimes they just need that gateway of like, what happened? Are you okay with that? And they feel it. And because they know how to process it, it flows through them. And I think if we can all give to our children, and this is why I think it's so important to learn it, like to actually learn the processes or learn how to kind of, if it's not through a workshop of myself, learn how to do it for yourself, learn how to feel it in your own body and process it yourself. And then allow yourself then to guide your children into doing that, because we are the generation that's going to allow this next generation to create heaven on earth, because they're not as much mess as we do. And allow them to recognize, if this emotion isn't coming from me, where is it? And again, it allows them to go into their past life traumas and then untangle all that web that comes from there. And then allow them to go, actually, Mom, this is your stuff, and tell you that what your stuff is. So it's that communication with my children. It's been absolutely magical. I don't even feel like I would be where I am today with my awareness without the two of them in my life. So they've been an absolute blessing. And I think every child, if you allow yourself to connect with them, they will allow you to connect with that magic, and it allows you to connect with your own inner child. And it's the child essence within ourselves that connects us more to the divine, because the child expression is closer to the divine than we are, because we become a bit more distorted when we're older.
Yeah, that's incredible. I'm really happy to hear all of the things that you've said in terms of how we can help our own kids have this awareness within them, how they can process these emotions, these feelings and experiences, and how it can have, again, that effect of like, oh, this isn't mine. Sorry, Mum, this is yours. Maybe you need to go away and process that. Okay. And knowing that it's normal in a way, rather than that it's being seen as different or woo-woo or magic or whatever it is, that this is normal. This is how everybody really should be able to process and understand. And this is normal, not that it's like, anybody being labeled as being different or like their heads are in the cloud or anything. That I feel like when people talk about the spiritual realm, a lot of people go, oh, okay, like, you're one of those people,
It's a disconnection from self. So everyone who is like, it's almost like they're like, well, I can't allow myself to think or believe that, because that will separate me from the people that are in my life. I know we have it actually in us as an instinct within all of our genetics that we need to belong to a tribe. So whenever sometimes something different or woohoo comes along, with those were the women that got burned or the men that got, killed. Anyone who did something different got attacked, got killed, got murdered. And that was sometimes put as an example for the communities. This is in our blood. And there's a lot of people are like, oh, I've seen people like you get killed before. I'm not doing that. And they know where it's coming from, but it will be in their genetics as a safety mechanism. I can't do anything that's out of the norm of society because I may get killed. And this is, again, something as a collective that we're actually shifting through. And a lot of us, like yourself, we went through the weirdness. I remember when I first started, like the doubt that came in, like, everyone's going to think I'm a weirdo. Like, like, am I even going to have any friends? Are people in my family going to actually talk to me if I talk about this? Like, and you can feel a shift. Like, I'm lucky that my family are actually quite open to what I do, and they actually quite interested in what I do as well. And even the friends that I have now. But I do feel like there was a shift when I was going through all this, where there was certain friendships that did just disappear and in a natural kind of way. And then there was other friendships that just came in so much stronger. And it was those friendships that were more in alignment with my true, authentic self-expression. and the work that I do, those friendships now are, oh my goodness, they're so beautiful, especially because I don't have any family there. I feel like I've got so many sisters, and again, a lot of people are like, you're such a normal spiritual person, which I am. Like, live a very, I'm not like what you would class as spiritual, really. Even my home, when people come here, they're like, I don't think it would look like this. They almost expect that kind of more of a hippie look or a more of a, like there's a spiritual box. And
Yeah,
again,
like you're coated in crystals and you're wearing tie-dye, or maybe you've got feathers in your hair and, all that kind of stuff. Not to mention the cauldron over the stove and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I am very, very normal. And like, I came, I suppose, from a normal background as well. But I love the spiritual stuff. And I can see where I disconnected from it when I was a teenager. And it's almost like that, though, allow me then to see the normal life where I could feel I wanted to fit in. And that's now why I have a bigger understanding of like how other people don't want to relate to the spiritual aspect, how they'd rather just disconnected from it, because there is a lot of like even fear around, if you talk to spirit. I mean, I don't really actually talk to spirit as such. Well, I suppose I do when it comes in the healings. I'm like, well, what does this spirit want? Why is it stuck here? But all my own guidance comes from my own higher intuition, my own higher, my own soul essence. And this is why every single person, how we started, can connect to this, because it's not something you have to study or learn. It's just something that you have to relax into, something you have to surrender to, and then all the knowledge will just come through you. And that's why a lot of what I do and what I teach is a remembrance in how to connect to your own wisdom, your own guidance.
That's so powerful, Kerrie. That's amazing. I just want to say thank you so much for sharing all of that, because everything you're saying is just flowing with that energy and wisdom of a knowledge of what truly is there and what the connection is. And that this isn't made up. This isn't some fake reality. This isn't just some crazy. This is the truth. We're all being lovingly guided to acknowledge and to work more with, right? To have that connection, because it's always been there. It never wasn't there. It's always been there.
Yeah. And it's been there since you were little. Every single person would have felt it as a little child. And then layers of like no one else relating to that child and all that disconnect that would come through that's allowed them to be the person they are today. But again, it's a far cry from who they truly are. But it's just the person they perceive themselves to be now.
Yeah, amazing. If somebody wanted to do one of your courses, how would they find out or receive a healing from you? How did they go about that?
So I've got a website and it's literally Multidimensional Quantum Healing. And there's like .com, then that's all one word. There's no dashes, there's no spaces between that. So multidimensionalquantumhealing.com. Again, it's a bit of a mouthful, because when people were saying, what do you do? I'm like, well, it's a quantum field, and I go into these multidimensional, aspects of self. And it's kind of like, so it's got a long name, but you should be able to find it really easily. You're really just try and put in MUL, and then my website should come up. And obviously, after you typed it in once, it's always going to come up again. The courses are on there as well. And if you want to have a group course, because like Anna actually, because she's in Brew, she was able to get together with a group of people, and I was able to create a workshop with one of my workshops just for her and her friends. So again, if there is that people will be interested in that, they can contact me by my Facebook page, by my Instagram, or by email. My email is kerrie.white@outlook.com. They're welcome to send me emails, or you're welcome to just book in by the website for a one-on-one healing or distant healing, wherever you are. I have clients all around the world. I have some in America and some in England, some over East. I even have people here in Perth, where I'm based, that do Zoom sessions as well, because they don't want to travel. So again, like the distance sessions, and if there's something that doesn't align time-wise, I can sometimes be flexible. But again, like feel free to reach out to me if nothing on their website aligns.
Amazing. Oh, I hope there's like an influx.
I am actually quite busy as well. So it's almost like it's on the calendar and it's booked up. Keep flicking to the next week.
Yes, I often have to book like a few weeks in ahead to see you, but that's okay. I know that when we get to that moment, it's for the right time and the right reason. But yes, I'm sure that whoever comes into contact with you, Kerrie, is there for the right reason, and that what they receive from you will be truly in alignment with what they need at that moment in time. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, for sharing everything that you have. I know there is so much that For some may need to listen again just to get that little bit of clarification or understanding, see how it sits, how it lands. But thank you for sharing all your details there, because I know people can go and read some more, book in with you, experience a session. You've also given us a beautiful discount and code, which I've put in the show notes, that you can receive a discount to get a healing, a one-to-one healing with Kerrie. But I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing everything, because I truly admire and respect, and I'm so blessed to have you in my health and wellbeing team when I need help in all sorts of manners and everything, and that you've been able to share what you know with us today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure to know you.
Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to today's episode. Please rate and review this podcast so that it can continue to thrive and reach more listeners. I love to know who my listeners are, so please screenshot this episode and tag me on Instagram at Anna F. Hastie. And I look forward to connecting with you in the next episode.